Well, in November of 2024, I had the honor of being selected to do a presentation at California Math Council South that was in Palm Springs, California. And the topic of my presentation was teaching to students who had given up on learning using AI. In that case, I remember having some pre-session conversations with teachers that actually stayed the entire time, and a conversation I would ask them about AI, and I had mixed things. You had some that had kind of dabbled in it on personal, but most of the ones in attendance have not used AI in order to make their jobs easier as teachers. A lot of them were fearful. English teachers are saying how students are using it to cheat, etc., etc. So here's something that I actually shared with them. I said that I remember when I was little, not really little. In this case, I'm talking about graduated from the Naval Academy and music and stuff and technology. When I went to school, the calculator didn't exist. But then you also had the music. Hip hop came out. When hip hop came out, people just thought it was a fad. Well, hip hop's been around for over 5.5 decades now. Okay, the same thing. You need to face up to the fact AI is here. AI is not going anywhere. Matter of fact, AI has actually tripled. In some cases, I think the second model or the version that they have 4.0 out of ChatGPT is 10 times more powerful than the original version. And that just happened in less than a year. But I want to be able to share with you why you shouldn't be afraid of AI. And you just need to understand it. And I'm going to kind of share that with you in here. Okay, so this is about AI generated understanding for the California Math Framework. So I normally have, every time I've been going to these conferences, professional conferences, I like the pre-conference workshops because you get an opportunity to go a little bit more in depth, but it's a workshop. So one of the sessions I went to, and this one, they had like a buffet of different sessions. And one of the sessions I went to was on the California Math Framework that just recently got approved in 2023. Now, I just retired from teaching in June. I had heard about the framework maybe a couple of years ago, but I was totally unaware that it actually been published. And also a lot of other teachers. And because there was no direction from our district or our educational leadership stressing the new math framework. And there was a lot of controversy if you go on YouTube and everything else concerning it. And so as part of this course, that's the main part of this course, is for me to dive in deeper for things that you don't have time to do. And so I can shorten your time frame. So I'm going to kind of go over the experience of what I was doing. In this case, I was working on the session in this one about generating lesson plans. And I said, you know what? We need a lesson plan format. And so that's what I started doing. And as I started doing it, I realized that at the conference, one of the big aha moments was about that California Math Framework. So in preparations for doing this lesson, I said, let me go ahead. And as I started doing it, I said, well, wait a minute, let me just include it. And so I'm just going to kind of go through what I did, and so that you can understand the power of using AI. So the first thing I did was I actually went to the internet. And the first thing I did, I'm going to do it here too, so follow me. I may get lost here. I'm going to do California Math Framework 2023. Boom. Do this. I get a link, and I go to the California Math Department. This is the first thing I did. And here's the 2023 Math Framework. Mathematics Framework, Curriculum Framework, provide guidance to educators, parents, and publishers to support implementing the content center. It says educators, parents, and publishers. I want to know, how many of you have shared the copy of the, I'm going to go back and be honest. When I learned about the 1997 mathematics framework, at no time did I share that with parents, and at no time did my educational leaderships suggest that I share it, because we couldn't understand it at the first time, and not everybody read it. And I know I've read sections of it, but in my teaching career, I didn't read the 1997 framework in its entirety. Okay, didn't do it, didn't happen. Now, we did have training that was set up for us that they pulled me out for a week that went over a little bit of the math framework, but that was it. And after then, there was nothing. Okay. Then the Common Core comes out in 2010, and now they do the 2013 math framework. I remember the same thing. They were working on it and everything else. The problem is that we shifted to a digital world, and guess what? When it came out then, there was no hard copy. Nobody gave me a hard copy of the book. Here's the framework, read it, or any other directions. No, it was there only for those that wanted to be thirsty about changing math or changing the way teaching for professional development. Lo and behold, what happens? 2023 come out. Same thing. Nobody gave me a copy of it. I haven't been retired yet. And nobody said anything about it. It's only because I was at the conference that I even knew about it. Okay, so finally, I go up here to the 2023 framework, and I go here and I look. Everything's in digital. You don't get hard copies. This is the digital world. First thing I noticed are 14 chapters. And I started looking here. The first 5 of these are purpose, understanding, equity, engagement, number sense, discovering, reasoning. These are all the data science. It's bringing in the new importance about data science because we need students. We need future Americans that understand data and computer science. So those are in there. Then it gets to actually for bandwidth, I said here. In other words, we get TK and all the way up to grade 5. So for elementary, middle school, and high school. Then it goes into equity engagement, again, supporting the school, supporting the educator, technology and distance learning, mathematics assessments, also instructional materials. Then you get acronyms, the big ideas, the big mathematical ideas, where the references are, the works that are cited in this, and the vignettes. So I saw all that, and I said, whoa, that's a lot of stuff. So I decided, well, let's get to the case. See, I am a math high school teacher, so I know there's one here for high school, and I also know there's a framework. So what I decided to do was first go to the mathematics framework, and I went to the summary. And so I went to the summary, and the first thing I noticed as I'm going through here in the summary, I go down the bottom and I see it's page 1 through 8, so it's 8 pages. And I say it's 3,042 words. I said, okay, I can get that. It's 8 pages. So I started going through it. In the very first part, and I'm just going to kind of go over an overview. You need to go get it and download it yourself if you're in California. If you're not in California, go and type in and look for your state's particular mathematics framework or language arts frameworks. Because I've changed the course, not just to focus on math, but it does because I'm a math teacher. So first is about what is math, the mathematics framework, and it talks about the standards does not change. So the standards are the same since 2010. They updated in 2013, the standards, okay? But the standards are the same. So this is a new framework. And it's the reason why a new framework, very simple. It says for the PISA, which is the Program for International Student Assessment, the scores have declined since 2000. Currently, there are 30 other countries above our American 15-year-olds. That's why we have to outsource the technology to China and everything else, because their students are doing much better on technology, and it's specifically in math and science. So our scores are sucking. And why our scores are sucking, it is actually devastating our country. Okay. And the main thing is there's still a large gap of achievement for historically underserved students of color and those from low income families. So the purpose of this framework was to address those concerns because we're not reaching those kids. Okay. And every kid has the right to be able to have rigorous mathematics instruction. So now they talk about what's in the mathematical framework. It talks about instructional design, this new terminology and everything else. It's based on the research. So that's what it goes over. And then it goes to the content of each framework chapters. Then I see here, mathematics of all purpose. So it goes over chapter 1. Chapter 2 is equity. Chapter 3 is number sense. See, it's all just one paragraph, easy to digest and read. Exploring, discovering, reasoning with and about mathematics. Mathematical foundations for data science. Then it talks about the connections specifically for the grade bands, which is TK through grade 5, then grade 6 through 8, and then it goes high school. Then it talks again, going back again, experiences of equity and engagement, supporting educators for and offering equitable, engaging mathematics instruction. Technology and distance learning, because since the pandemic, we have a lot of students that are doing remote mathematical assessments. In other words, what's the key of what we're going to do as far as the assessments? Our district, and I am a chairperson for WAS, American Schools and Colleges, WAS, for accreditation, and also a model school field expert for the Department of Education for the continuation and alternative education fields. And I'll tell you, the scores suck. Okay. Instructional materials, we make excuses. Okay. Appendix A is about math progressions. It talks about the different pathways. Appendix B, where it cites the works, and Appendix C talks about vignettes. This is something new we'll have to go into. But it says that all vignettes referenced in the framework by chapter are longer than 2 pages. So they put hyperlinks in the chapters to give readers easy access to each one of the vignettes. So that right there is a math summary. So I did that. Next thing when I wind up going to is looking, since I'm a high school teacher, I went to specific for the math frameworks. And the first thing I started looking at was this. So this is chapter 8, investigating and connecting high school. Everything's about investigating. Math framework, and I see page 1 to 79. I'm saying, whoa, the other one was 8 pages. Now this is 1 to 79. Okay. Next thing I look down is 20,280 words. Oh, okay. Everybody take a deep breath. You want to know, you want to wonder why nobody has read that. It's not an easy read. It's something that's going to take time to read. And right now, this is where we're at. The framework came out in 2023. The book adoptions for the majority of the schools in California is going to happen sometime at the end of 2025. So between now and the end, so roughly 1 year from now, you got 1 year to read this sucker so that you can understand it. Because you need to understand what's in the framework in order to do justice to contributing to making recommendations for your curriculum in your school or district. Okay, so let's kind of dive into it. So next thing I started going through, I was just going through the outline. Normally what I do for anything writing, I say the crucial mathematics of high school. Let's tell me up front, what are the crucial things? There we talk about the 3 new terms: drivers of investigation, otherwise known as DI, standards of mathematical practice, SMP, and content connections, CC. And I started going over this and looking up. So that was the first thing that kind of hit me right up. And it talks about the pathways and conclusion. Then I started going through and started reading. And I was noticing this was a different field. See, this is not talking about and sharing with me the standards. It's talking more about how. So here, the very first part is that it talks about, here are the content standards. They've stayed the same since 2013. The SMP, standards of mathematical practice, those have been the same. That's been around since around like 2010, 2013. Next, it goes into specific items. And here we talk about the content connections, reasoning with data, exploring changing quantities, taking whole parts. So this is all good. Let's talk about it. But it says planning instructions to drive investigation. I looked at it. Now I like this. There's a diagram. So it says, now we concentrate on 3 things. Here's the focus for the frameworks. Why? We need to be able to explain to students why we're learning this. 2, how they're going to learn it. That's the standards of mathematical practice. And 3, what or wow. In other words, what's the reasoning for doing this? And it says 4 outcomes that we need students to be able to do to help our economy in the future, to help America in the future. They need to be able to reason with data. They need to be explained changings, what happens when you change the quantities. They need to be able to take things apart and put them back together. And then they need to be able to discover understanding shape and space. So those are things I understand that. Next, you got a long description of the figure. So if you clicked on that, it gives you a description of what this is. Then I started going through, and here's another diagram, exactly the same stuff, but just in a different way of showing it. Actually, are they teaching us something here? Are they showing us something here? They had the same information, but now they're showing it 2 different ways. We need to understand that. I think that's the key. So I'm up here reading through this and talked about the drivers of investigation, the standards of mathematical practice. I was going through, I'm doing fine. Talks about Dan Meyer, who did the 3-act programs that talked about building thinking classrooms, talks about bringing in experiences, gave you some good links. The connections, I got that. I was going through here and I was in here. I was reading. Everything's fine. Then roughly about here, page 14 to 15, I started getting bored. I mean, it's a lot of words. Sometimes I needed the dictionary to go through them. Most of the things I understand because of the math teacher. I tell you what, no English language teacher is going to be able to understand everything that's inside here. Okay. But I started going over it, and then finally I said, whoa, you know, I did a word search for artificial intelligence, and guess what? Artificial intelligence is not mentioned once in this document because it was written before we got exposed, the general public, to artificial intelligence. So I decided, I said, you know what? This is a large document. I'm on page 4 and it's got I got 75 more pages to read through. How long do you think it's going to take me to go through this? How many teachers do you really realize or think that actually go through this whole document? See, the key right now with AI, thank God, is that I don't have to read the whole thing. I just need to be able to ask the questions in order to create something that I can implement and put it in the classroom. If I wait in order to read through the other 75 pages, how long, let's bet somebody's paycheck, how long do you think it's going to take for us to get it done? Do you really think it's going to get done? I can guarantee you, I don't think it's going to get done. But with AI, and if you know how to do this, see, again, when I went to the frameworks, see what it says? The frameworks provide guidance to educators, parents, and publishers. So they're giving it to us now as educators. The publishers are looking at the frameworks since they're going to design the curriculum that they're going to try to sell us to get billions of dollars on. But also, what about this thing about parents? Most parents never get introduced to this mathematical framework so they can understand. And that's because we as educators don't share this with parents. That's why they were all uptight and angry. I mean, downright angry when we went through the Common Core. Because there wasn't a part in here about explaining to parents why. So now, one very critical thing, that's why I wanted to do this course, was to be able to reach out to parents and teachers, okay, so that they can understand why we're doing this. So the new frameworks is not about changing the standards. It's the same standards. We updated them in California to 2013. We added a couple of more in there, but those standards have been set for the last 10 years. This framework is about the why, the how, and the what. We want to answer the question, why you're learning this. 2, we want to show students and parents and everybody and educators about how students are expected to learn the mathematics so that they can feel them all, okay? The mathematical practices. There are also mathematical practices for teachers. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm probably going to include that in this lesson as well, okay? But the why, the why, the how, and the what allows them to say, why am I learning this and what is the impact? Okay, what is the impact? And most of them need to understand this. If it wasn't for mathematics, this damn thing wouldn't exist. So most of them are preoccupied with this, okay? But they need to understand it. Okay, let's go ahead and get with it. So I got that, did that, and I said, well, no, I gotta look at a different way. So first, I went to my little friend. You ever seen the one of the movies with, I think it's not Al Capone. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it'll come to me. I'm old, so that kind of works. But anyway, I decided, let me go here. I'm up here designing a lesson plan format for, in other words, what is everything that teachers need to have in a lesson plan, or parents, if you're trying to do a lesson plan that's going to be effective and engaging. How do you create that? So we need a template. So the first thing I did, first I want to show you, why do you need the AI and why do you need to use it every single day? If you notice here on the side, these are all the different chats that I have done. It goes October, this is September, this is August. It goes all, see, mine's up here spinning. It keeps going back. That's August, that's July. I have been using this every single month. Okay, and the reason is because the more I use it, The more it understands me and the smarter it gets and the faster it gives me the information the way I want it. Okay, so I'm not going to go over everything all the time, but I'm just going to show you very quickly what I did. So you know that I read the summary. I only read the first 4 pages and I didn't read the other 75 pages in that math framework. Okay, because what I really want to do, if I waited to go through that in order to get here, it'd be done in a year. Nah, with AI and being a prompt engineer, that's what I am. And someday you will, if you take in my lesson, if you're attending this course, you're going to become a prompt engineer and be able to do this. So what I did was very simple. I asked it, what are the key components to effective lesson plans? And it said effective lesson plans are essential for successful teaching and learning. Below are the key components of the effective lesson plan. So it gives me objectives, learning goals, materials, a lesson hook, engagement, direct instruction, guided practice, independent, differentiation, assessment, closure, extensions, reflection on teacher's notes, include a space for teacher to reflect on the lesson's success and areas for improvement. Also in that, don't forget to ask your students about that. Timing and transition. In other words, how do you do that? It's like writing a book. If I'm doing a fiction book, I normally come up with an ideal, the basic concept, but then I get together and actually come up with a plot outline. And after the plot outline, and then you actually write the book. But you have transitions from each book. As English teachers, when you're writing the essay, they want to see a transition from each paragraph. In here, timing. So I said, okay, this is cool. Then I said, create me a PDF. So what it did, it actually created me a PDF. I can't show it to you. I've already clicked on it. It only allows me to click once. So, but it did. It created a PDF so I can download it. Okay. So I did that. Then what I said, I looked at it and I said, in my course about the Motivated Classroom Workshop, there are 3 key components that are missing to the traditional. What this did was gave me a traditional breakdown of what needs to be in a lesson plan. But that won't work to reach and meet the needs of the design concepts in the new framework. Because did you remember when I was looking at it, it had equity in there all the time. So it's talking about reaching a diverse group. So in order to do that, I must include the following 3 things. 1, I want to include cultural relevance. 2, I want to consider trauma-informed practices. And 3, I want to use AI because AI is not going to go away. I remember when hip hop came in and I said, that's a fad. It wasn't going to last. Well, it's been 6 decades, 5.5 decades in my lifetime that hip hop is here. It hasn't gone away. It's still here. So guess what? AI is not going anywhere. Learn how to embrace it. It's here. Do you think these things are going to go away? No. Guess what? AI ain't going away. So I said, let's update it. So it updated. At first it had a little problems trying to do it. Probably because I got so much stuff in here. But eventually it came up and it changed it. So what I did, I clicked on it, I looked at it, and I reviewed it. The same thing. AI gives you a starting point. Okay, it's not perfect. In order to make it perfect, you need someone like me as a teacher, or you as a teacher, or you as a parent, because it's like a child in infancy, but it's pretty smart. So what I decided to do, I said, oh, okay, so now I got the math framework. So what I did was upload the math framework. And then I said, let's create an example lesson plan, discovering shape and space using trigonometric functions, using the math framework attached, modify the lesson plan components to include the California Math Standards, Standards of Mathematical Practice, the DI, and the CC. Those are the new terms I just learned. I don't know everything about them, but I know what those terms are. So, and I uploaded the document. So when I did that, it came back and it gave me a new lesson plan. Discovering shape and space with trigonometric functions. Here we go. Now it's included the standards. Now it's included the CCs. Now it's included the standards for mathematical practice. Now it gives me the objective. It gives me the materials. It gives me my lesson hook. What to go over in direct instruction. So it didn't go explicitly. I can go any deeper, but this is an outline. It gave me DI2. It gave me SMP4. It goes over. It gives me DI1. I was looking at differentiation, assessment, technology. When I looked at it, I said, whoa, wait a minute. A couple things. One, all right, so that's the lesson plan. I said, I want you to create me a student activity guide, but I also noticed that I didn't see DI3. So I go back to it and say, recreate it. And now it's giving me an example. This is a student activity. And specifically also what I did, it gave me that, it uploaded that. I mean, it gave me the other download. I'm sorry. My words are kind of getting twisted up here. It produced my student activity guide. I downloaded it and I looked at it. And when I looked at it, I said, wait a minute. It keeps referencing AI tools. And it says, use AI tools to verify calculations. I'm saying, what AI tools? So I go back. I said, why don't you demonstrate and explain how to use the AI tools to verify calculations? And then it comes up with a scenario, because this is what we're talking about. A ladder leaning against the building at 60 degrees. I've seen that multiple times on the end of the year state tests. So, but it tells me use photomath. And it tells me how to do it. Then it says use GeoGebra. Then it says use Desmos. Then it says use Symbolab. It tells me how to use the AI tools effectively. And I said, okay, now that we've done all that, let's update the key components of a lesson plan to include the modifications we just discussed. Now, this is what it had. Key components of an effective lesson plan, materials, lesson hooks, direct instruction. But look at it, guided practice. Use AI tools to allow to explore concepts. It goes over there, but also here, see here, it also now says AI tools, photomath, GeoGebra, Desmos, Symbol. It has everything. It has a whole lesson plan. Now, how long did it take me to do that? Wow. So, incorporating and integrating the new framework, you can actually go in and say, give me a summary, or go in there, have a conversation with it. You want to understand it. You can actually go through everything that's inside the California frameworks by using AI and be ready to implement something and do it in one weekend. With that, I encourage you to make sure you have ChatGPT. I have ChatGPT 4.0. I have the upgraded version because I use it every single day. And also it's costing me like $25 a month. Multiply that out over the 12 months, it's roughly $300. And bam, guess what? I use this software as far as working as a teacher. I can deduct that from my taxes. With that, this is Dr. Smith. I hope you enjoyed my video. This is my second time doing it. The first time, my computer crashed. Stuff happens. You know how it is. This is Dr. Smith. I'm going to make sure I hit the record button and hit save. Thank you.